Hello and welcome, especially if you are part of East Church in Inverness. The church has very kindly asked me to put together this video to be able to share something of the work and mission of Blythswood Care, and in particular, our response to COVID-19. Our projects have continued to operate thanks to people like you. And our project partners have been able to continue the work and adapt so quickly to a changing landscape, which is COVID-19. Our project partners have been delivering food parcels, which has become a priority, especially in Serbia and Romania, where we serve the poorest communities. I want to talk about our Bonus Pasta project. Bonus Pasta project in Romania is a rehabilitation centre for addicts. The founder, Levente Horvath, broadcast Sunday services throughout lockdown. Not only was that a blessing to the people we support at Bonus Pasta, but 5,000 to 6,000 people were able to access his services online, and they heard the gospel. During lockdown, our centre has remained open, with the clients that we serve having to be locked down, along with the staff. The staff served 2 weeks shifts, and what incredible sacrifice and love for those that we seek to serve as an organisation that our partners and the staff show. So at this point, I want to turn our attention to one of Jesus' miracles. Probably my favourite miracle, and I don't think it's just because I like food a bit too much. It happened in a mountainside and speaks right into where we are right now. It's a story that shows that God uses little things to do great things, that he uses the ordinary to perform the extraordinary. Before I go any further, I would like to read a passage to you from John 6, 1 to 14, and it may well be familiar to you. After this, Jesus went away to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias, and a large crowd was following him because they saw the signs that he was doing on the sick. Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. Now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was at hand. Lifting up his eyes and seeing that a large crowd was coming toward him, Jesus said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat?" He said this to test him, for he knew that what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough of each of them to get a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what are they for so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." Now there was grass in the place, and so the men sat down, about 5,000 in number. Jesus then took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated. So also the fish, as much as they wanted. And when they had eaten their fill, he told his disciples, "Gather up the leftover fragments, that nothing may be lost." So they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves left by those who had eaten. When the people saw the sign that he had done, they said, "This is indeed the prophet who has come into the world." And God will bless his word. So what can this miracle of Jesus, which is a favourite with Sunday school teachers and Sunday school children, what can it teach us today? Well, we know that children and women were thought to be unimportant in these days. And that the feeding of 5,000 is not just 5,000, it's 5,000 plus women and children. God used somebody, though, that nobody else would have thought about. He used somebody that everyone else would have overlooked. He used a boy. And it just shows us how Jesus works and how God works in our lives today. He often chooses the unimportant person, the weakest in society, to do his work. He uses all kinds of people. He uses me. He can use you. And through the work of Blythswood Care, we see God take the ordinary and make it extraordinary, time and time again. God takes something small and he uses it to change someone's world. If we have a look at Blythswood Care's logo, we will see that we've got 3 aspects of what we do: education, community, and gospel. And you may know that ECG is a medical term, and it's all about the heart. And education, community, and gospel are to the very heart of what Blythswood Care does. One example of our education projects is Teresa Kim. Blythswood Care are committed to long-term care projects, helping disadvantaged children and young people to fulfill their potential through education. If we think on the Bible story of Jairus and his little girl, and how he asked Jesus to heal his little girl, but when Jesus got there, she was dead. And so he says to the little girl, "Rise up." And she got up, and she came back from the dead. That is what Teresa Kim means. Teresa Kim means to rise up, because we want to see children and young people rise up to be all that they are created to be. Over 80 children from 7 to 14 attend this after-school program at Teresa Kim every single day. We want Teresa Kim to be a place where children learn and where they rise up and perform their full potential. Teresa Kim was also able to adapt very quickly. The teachers taking the classes online. Our project partners in Romania were able to source mobile phones, and 100 of our students were able to access the online learning. Where we work, as I've already mentioned, it's a very poor society, very poor community. And the furniture in these homes are very sparse. So our project partners managed to source desks and delivered them to all the children so that they could continue with their learning. It's another example of how far our project partners will go to ensure the work continues and the people we support and seek to serve are able to get the best care and help that we can possibly give them. Once restrictions eased, classes were able to resume, albeit socially distanced and outside. In this and other projects, our partners have been incredible, absolutely incredible in meeting the needs of others. And if we think back to our Bible reading, think about what the disciples wanted Jesus to do. They really wanted Jesus to send the crowd away because they didn't think that they could possibly feed them. But Jesus had no intentions of sending anybody away. He wanted the disciples to trust him. He wanted the disciples to know that all their help comes from him, that he will supply all their needs. And he does that for us today, in Blythswood too. Jesus took all they had, the loaves and fish, all the little boy had. He took his lunch and did something miraculous, did something wonderful with it. What do we have in our hands today? What can God use that's in our hands? What we think is tiny, what we think is small, what we think is insignificant, God can use. The second part of what Blythswood Care does that I want to speak about today is community. In particular, our Highland Food Bank. Highland Food Bank has continued throughout the pandemic, where need is rising every single day, and we need your support with that still. We've continued to provide enough food for people in need for 3 meals for 3 days. Food Bank is only ever a short-term help for people that are just waiting for benefits or there's some kind of issue that has to be solved. But the Food Bank is there for people at the time of need. I want to tell you a little bit about Jane. Well, I'm going to tell you it in her words. Jane has had to use Food Bank, and she says, "Normally I depend on overtime to get by each week. but only my contracted 20 hours were covered by furlough pay. I had to apply for benefits for the first time in my life so that I could get enough money just to live. I was referred to the food bank while I was waiting for my first benefit payment. I literally would have had nothing to eat during this time if it wasn't for the food bank. Normally at this time of year, churches across the Highlands are organising harvest Thanksgiving services, giving thanks to God for everything we have, but also donating to the food bank. With the onset of COVID and all the challenges associated thereto over the last few months, that is not going to be possible in the same way it normally is. So what I would ask you to do is not to forget about the food bank, and if you're in a position to still give. You can give into Glebe Street in Inverness, or you could actually go online and donate, but please do think about the food bank at this time. But before I move on further, I want to talk a little bit about what motivates me. Why do I do the job that I do? Well, I've been in fundraising now for almost 20 years, but Blythswood's always had my heart. And a year and a half ago, I was very, very blessed when I was offered the job of Community Fundraising Manager for Blythswood. It's a job that I relish, it's a job that I love. It has its challenges, it has its amazing privileges, and it's a huge honour to be part of such an organisation. About a year ago from now, I went to visit Romania. And what a privilege that was. I went to see our projects. I was at Bonus Pastor, I was at Teresa Kim, but the project I want to focus on my own experience, is Bass's project. It's a project where our project partners provide food and clothing to people who actually literally have nothing, that don't have anything. And I want to talk about a couple, maybe three of the people that we visited. First lady I want to talk about was a lady who lost both parents at the age of 5 and has never been to school. Now this lady must be in her 60s or 70s now. She's never been to school, she's never had the opportunity of education, never been able to work. She has had a really difficult time. And when we delivered the food to her, she cried, overwhelmed with emotion. And the very fact that we were there, she was so thrilled to see us. We were so welcomed by these people. And she was so uneducated, it was difficult for her to sign her name, and she had to get some help with that. And then we went to a lady whose house looked absolutely beautifully done. It had a lovely kitchen and everything else. And I said, "You've got your house beautiful. Every stick of furniture, the kitchen, everything was donated to her from Blythswood and other organisations like Blythswood." She loves Blythswood, she loves Scotland, and she absolutely loved us coming to visit her. She wanted to share what she had and was offering us coffee and tea and anything else that she had to offer, she would give to us. This woman had nothing, and she was offering me a cup of coffee. And she was giving us lots of hugs and kisses. She just loved to see us. And another man I want to talk about a man who is so crippled. It was painful watching him get to his front door. He had no wheelchair. They don't have an NHS. He doesn't know how to access support if there is support. And that's the impact that Blythswood Care has, that we can help people like that, give them food, give them clothing. And that's what we want people to get out of as well. That's why we have education projects such as Teresa Kim, so that they have a better future. They can find jobs and they can be all, as I've already said, that they've been created to be. The next aspect of what we do is gospel, and I want to speak a little bit about that now, because that is the root of everything that Blythswood Care does. Sharing the life-transforming message of the gospel motivates all that we do. Blythswood Care started 54 years ago on the streets of Glasgow by our founder, Jackie Ross. Jackie was studying at the time to be a minister, and he saw a real need on the streets of Glasgow, specifically at Blythswood Square, hence our name, Blythswood Care. And he and his friends wanted people to see beyond their need. He wanted them to see a God who loves them, a God who wants to help them, and a God who died for them. And they gave out leaflets and tracts at that time. And that was how the birth of Blythswood Care came about. So the sharing of the gospel is hugely important to us. It's central to everything that we do. So moving on to a little girl called Larissa. And our biggest gospel campaign of the year, our shoebox appeal. When you're 3, everything is new. A kind person who Larissa will never meet, from a country that she may never visit, gave her a Christmas present and a shoebox. In that shoebox was full of wonderful things. Things to be squeezed at, things to be maybe given a wee bit of smell, and things to hold, and just toys and crayons. She was given crayons. And what Larissa does not realise is that these crayons are her first step to education. Through these crayons, she will be able to learn how to hold a pencil. Now, Larissa's challenges are going to be huge when she gets to education. She speaks Romani, she doesn't speak Romanian, and all schooling is done in Romanian. So she's going to get to school and have to learn a brand new language before she learns anything else, really. So that's a huge challenge to her. Her mum learned how to read and write, and with the support of Teresa Kim, had some education. But at the age of 13, left to get married, as was the custom of her people. Her dad takes odd jobs in construction whenever he can, and sometimes works away for long periods of time. Throughout the COVID-19 lockdown, the family of 6 received a warm meal every day from Teresa Kim canteen. Another example of the lengths that our project partners have gone to ensure those we serve are being looked after. By filling a shoebox for Blythswood Care's Shoebox Appeal, you are not only giving practical help to families like Larissa, but you're opening up new horizons to children like Larissa. Every shoebox has a piece of Christian literature in it, which she will learn to read one day, hopefully. Larissa is on our new Shoebox Appeal leaflet. And if you would like a leaflet, please do go to our website and order your leaflets for our Shoebox Appeal. And we do hope, I know that East Church supports the Shoebox Appeal hugely, and I thank you for that. And I hope this year you're still able to, despite the difficulties around us, I hope you're still able to support the Shoebox Appeal. Before I wrap up today, no pun intended if you're wrapping up shoeboxes while listening to this, but I just want to mention our online quiz. Fundraising has been a challenge this year. Our fundraising team sat in an office in Deephaven, our head office, back in January and planned the whole year. And like everybody else, our plans went up in smoke come March. Nothing was going to happen that we had planned. Charities are facing real challenges at the moment, and Blythswood Care is no exception. We have been so blessed over this last few months. We have seen such sacrificial giving, and we thank you so much for that. But we want to continue to be able to provide the support we do. So on 22nd of October, Brains for Blythswood is happening. We are looking for teams of 4 and asking for a minimum donation of £20 per team. To sign up, visit our website or get in touch with myself. There will be a mix of questions to suit the most avid quizzers of you, and maybe some not quite so difficult for those of us that aren't quite so good at quizzes. It promises to be a great evening. Right at the moment, we can't go out very often. It sounds like that there's going to be restrictions in the hospitality industry, so even going out for a meal is going to be more of a challenge. But we can have a good time with our families, with our friends, inside our own houses. Teams don't have to be within the same families. They can be multi-location. In this day and age, with all the technology at our disposal, you can have your team spread across a few different houses. So please do get in touch if it's something you'd like to get involved with. Even what we think is small, even putting a team in for £20, and we think that's small, God can actually transform that and transform someone's story. I wonder how the little boy felt on the mountainside, seeing Jesus doing extraordinary things with his lunch. And I know how Larissa felt, because I've seen the pictures, when she opened her shoebox and saw full of goodies. Things practical, like toothbrush, that to you and I is not a luxury, it's an essential, but to Larissa, it's actually a luxury. Jesus came to this world to transform lives. I invite you to support Blythswood Care. You will see lives transformed by God. Jesus asks us to follow and do likewise. The boy just had a few loaves and fish, and Jesus did amazing things with it. So what I want to ask today is, what do we have in our hands? What can we give? Can you give a monthly gift? Even what we think is small, God can take and transform someone's story. There's a bit of a theme going on here, isn't there? £10 can feed 2 vulnerable children at Teresa Kim. You can give them breakfast for a month. £20 can help someone in need through the Highland Food Bank. So to finish, will you be part of God's life-transforming work? Will you fill a shoebox or contribute to one? Will you put a team in for the quiz? Will you pray? Join us, be part of a team committed to helping people affected by rejection, poverty, isolation. Your prayers and your giving are so much appreciated. And they will help transform lives, especially in these difficult times. Thank you so much for this opportunity. God bless.